it got to a point where I couldn't take it anymore. I just wanted to take the plunge. I've always been a risk taker, but I've taken calculated risks. So to anyone listening who's possibly thinking of doing the same or something similar, it's useless living a life you're not comfortable living when you can get to choose what.
So in today's episode on the MedTech 101 podcast, I have an exciting guest, Dylan. Dylan is the CEO and co-founder of MedTech World, which started about 3 years ago, but they really do exciting stuff, which we're going to be covering today. So without any further delays, welcome to the MedTech 101 podcast.
Thank you. Hi, Rodney. Hi, everyone. I'm very, very looking forward to our discussion. Let's get going.
Yes, and yeah, definitely same here. And just to get started, usually I always start the episode on the podcast with just like a random question or random statement, and I just wanted to talk about how we like got in contact, and because like for the podcast I've been running some content for like I don't know, for the last 8 months now, since April. And but getting to that point, it had taken me 6 months to release the first episode because I was preparing for stuff. And they decided to also create short form content, from the episodes that I do, that I, make them into 1 minute reels or short videos for TikTok and Instagram. And then I released that on the Instagram page as well. And I think you came across some of my content on
Instagram, actually. It's funny because one of my mentors, he's like, because I purely use LinkedIn to hunt down people, to make new connections. So that's my main kind of go-to platform. But a mentor of mine was actually telling me, like, don't forget Instagram, don't forget other social media. You might be surprised the type of people you're going to come across with. And I found you on Instagram without looking. I wasn't searching for anything in particular, to be honest. And when you look at my Instagram feed, it's either full of motivational posts, Peaky Blinders stuff, Formula One, Real Madrid. So, but anyways, we're here now, so that's good.
Yeah, definitely. I'm happy to hear that because, like, the whole point of the approach on Instagram and TikTok was initially to reach a wider audience and much younger people, and as a way to also, make them think about biomedical engineering when they go to university or something. But I was laughing a couple of days ago thinking about how many people have learned about medtech from my Instagram page or the TikTok content that I create, which is the last place most people would expect to learn about it. But then going to where I really wanted to talk about is just starting with your story. I think it's really exciting because it's quite unorthodox for people to move from, like, you went to medical school, like you did 5 years at the University of Malta studying medicine. And then after that, you went, you did another master's, I think, in sort of like business or entrepreneurship. And then you went to Ireland for nearly 3 years, where you did, like
the postgrad surgery
studies. Exactly, for medicine, which takes another 3 years. So in total, you've spent like almost 8 years at school studying medicine, and then but then you also have had this entrepreneurial journey, because I was doing some research on you leading up to this podcast, and I saw that your entrepreneurial journey didn't start with MedTech World, but you had started working, like in the past with sort of like a company called Digital Health Malta, which was maybe started in 2019.
That was actually an NGO, to be honest. But I did have other experiences working. When it comes to entrepreneurship, it was always like a passion hobby of mine. I don't regret going through medical school. The knowledge I've learned, be it human anatomy, then doing surgery, which was even more exciting. Getting to do and participate and actively help in trauma surgeries, CPRs. A lot of adrenaline rush going on, which gave me a lot of skills, actually, especially when it comes to the business world, even when it comes to how you tackle a problem. It's very similar to how you take a history from a patient, starting with the presenting complaint, passes. I mean, there's a lot of similarities between the industries, but I've always felt restricted working in surgery, working at hospital, tending to one patient at a time. I remember when I came back from my post-graduation trip, I had gone to Cuba actually with my friends. It was a 10-day holiday when I came back here. And this was right after my final year exam. So it's quite a tradition here. You finish your final year exams, results come out in like 2 to 3 days after. And then we have like a very short 10-day break. And everyone goes on holidays. And we had gone to Cuba, which is like across the Atlantic, quite a big trip. Anyways, I came back here, and the first thing on my mind was what I'm going to be doing next, apart from working as a doctor. And I remember I had come across a master's in knowledge-based entrepreneurship, which was taught by professors from Oxford University, actually. Sorry for that, which was taught by professors from Oxford University, and that kind of helped open a whole new word form. It's like you don't really need to rely on just one kind of avenue. And entrepreneurship is like it's a passion of mine. That's it, I guess. Anyways, I did medical school. I did foundation year training. I went into surgery. It was always a question of when I was going to stop, at what stage. And then I did the postgrad surgical exam with the Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland, which was quite a tough exam because I wasn't just focused on surgery. Unfortunately, I mean, I was dipping my fingers in all different startups, be it Digital Health Malta, which you were mentioning, which was an NGO based locally, based in Malta, trying to raise awareness on digital health and medtech. Then eventually I had joined Tabib.mt, which was a local telemedicine platform. So I was never fully focused on medicine, whilst having to carry out all the duties of a surgical trainee. But anyways, I got my postgrad surgical exam, which was quite a tough one to get, and I decided to take a break. 3 years down the line, I'm here, and I can't say I'm regretting what I did, even though I genuinely miss surgery, the whole buzz of it all, orthopedics, plastic surgery, which I used to love. But I mean, life is funny, I guess so, and I'm here.
Nah, that's really good. I think that's something that makes it quite special, is it? Because most people don't have that kind of sort of like cross-sectional skills. Because now you're working in medtech, it means that as a doctor, essentially, because you're a qualified doctor or even a surgeon, which more than just a normal general doctor, but you also, like, when you speak to these companies, you understand the technology. If they say, okay, this is the illness we're trying to prevent and this is what we're trying to achieve, you've got that background knowledge from the work or from the studies you did. So that's quite interesting, actually, and that's what made me feel so like happy about MedTech World, like what you guys are doing, because now the company is like an outlet for medical device companies to come and showcase what they're working on, what the latest trends are in the markets, and it's been attracting quite a lot of attention, right? Because from the one you hosted a couple of weeks ago in Malta, there was, like, was it the deputy prime minister of Malta or the prime minister
We've
of
had
Malta
most
was
of the
there?
government representatives, be it the prime minister, deputy prime minister, which is quite a good thing to have, actually. Minister for enterprises, minister for tourism. Everyone wanted to come and feel like what the medtech industry is all about, which is a very relatively new industry. And going back to your first point, actually, about becoming a doctor, and getting a little bit more insight into the industry, it helps, because when it comes to, for example, I also am part of a venture firm. I'm trying to possibly raise my own fund by the end of next year, so I'm receiving a lot of pitch decks, which I can either possibly try to push my own VC to invest in, or else share with any of my networks of investors. But it goes on. I mean, when it comes to people pitching their products and they know that you're a doctor, have a medical background, especially with surgical medical devices, you know that their tone is changing, that they're not going to try and pave their way through with whatever they're saying. And something else to note, which is quite I wouldn't say sad, but sometimes I'm in calls. People wouldn't know who I am, and when I get introduced as a doctor, when I'm sharing my own kind of story, and I'm like, I was into medicine. They'll be like either typing, either not really focusing on the conversation. Then you mention you're a doctor, you see their eyes opening, and they start focusing on you, which is, I mean, essentially sad, because people should kind of respect anyone, be it whatever backgrounds they're coming from. But at least it goes on to show that at least there's some respect to what I've done, what I've been through.
Yes. I think it's just the rigorous nature of, trying to qualify as a doctor, because essentially what you have to go through so many years, so many hours, and I think in the college you went to in Ireland is quite a well respected surgeon school as well. So that also adds a bit of in terms of rigor to your qualifications that you had to go through. So I think that's impressive, and that's why I'm looking forward to be actually attending some of the concerts, well, not the concerts, but the conferences that you guys are going to be hosting next year, and that's why I also joined as like to be your brand ambassador to help you through this podcast to also spread awareness for this conference, and it's just amazing because from what I've heard, it's like Malta is basically becoming like a little hub for medical technology, the amount of companies popping up there and everything. So I don't know if you could quickly tell us exactly what's attracting people to Malta, which is like, essentially a small island in the Mediterranean, but what's making it so special?
It's not just our lovely island, I guess, or at least that's what I'd like to think. To think. But going back to the MedTech world and our inception, I was always into events. So even throughout my medical school, I was the leisure officer, so I loved organizing events. I had been through medical school. I was a doctor, so I'm like, how can I combine everything? And that's when I had reached out to a local massive company which was organizing events across different industries, nothing related to healthcare. I reached out to them. I kind of convinced the company's founder, one of my best mentors, Aman Police, to kind of invest in me and invest in my vision of growing a new conference brand, which is the MedTech World Summit. This was like 4 years ago. It was still the pandemic. Actually, no events were being done. And I tried to maximize his company's resources, be it marketing, logistics, and whatever, to grow our conference brand. A new conference brand, which is branded as the MedTech World Summit, in partnership with the Maltese government and several different entities in their quest to nurture a local medtech industry. And Malta, beyond being just a small island, it has loads of benefits. So first of all, this is not the first industry that Malta is trying to nurture right from the right from its inception. We've done this across multiple industries, be it gaming, be it other technology industries, AI, and so on. So this is not a new model for Malta, and Malta needs to continue doing this across other industries, at tech, fintech, and whatever, because we can't rely on just tourism for our economy to grow. We need foreign direct investment from companies to set up here. So this is one of the main reasons why the government and several entities, different governments throughout the years, to be fair, it's not just one particular government, lay down the red carpet to companies, not just startups, medium-sized companies, bigger corporates, to come to Malta, set up here, hire people. We're very much welcome to get skilled workers from abroad to come over to be able to teach the local cohort, local students, what these new industries are going to be requiring, so that eventually Malta can continue nurturing and growing the relative industries. And currently, one of Malta's main focuses is on the medtech industry, which we're doing quite well. I remember when I started this out 4 years ago, and I was speaking and reaching out to different government entities, they barely knew what medtech was or what digital health was. So the fact now that they're attending the conference, Prime Minister coming to speak, Deputy Prime Minister, Health Minister, Minister for Active Aging, they were all there. And it goes on to show how Malta is essentially essentially a small island, but everyone is very much connected to each other. And this offers a significant benefit to anyone who's looking to benefit from Malta being an English-speaking country, because English is our native language together with Maltese. Euros are currency, European Union, and loads of other benefits. So, for example, if you're an implant production company and you're producing your implants in other countries outside Europe, from Pakistan, Turkey to whatever, Malta offers the unique advantage of it being a European Union country. So you can produce your implants here, then ship them off to any European country, UK, US, and wherever. So there's a lot of these different benefits which go on to promote Malta as a very competitive country to be in. Above all, even when it comes to the different types of non-dilutive grants, loans being given by Malta Enterprise, which is the government's main foreign direct investment arm, as well as several tax incentives as well.
Well, nice. I've never been to Malta actually, and
we need to get you next. For next year, we need to get you here for sure.
Yes, definitely, and I'm looking forward to coming there next year. And but before we talk about the summit that's going to happen next year, the summit that happened this year, was that the first major summit that's?
It wasn't the first. No, we've been doing this for the past 3 years, but this was obviously the biggest, not just in terms of the quantity of people, but in terms of the caliber. So this year we purely focused the summit on startups, investors, and anyone else in between. So be it service providers, hospitals, clinics, insurances, and anyone else. And the conference is always a means to an end for us. So we're looking obviously to expand beyond being just an event in Malta or wherever, because don't forget that throughout the year we go on a roadshow. So we've done several roadshows across different cities: Dubai, London, Toronto, Belgrade, Istanbul. Next year we're expanding to Singapore, to Berlin, to Barcelona, in addition to all the ones I've just mentioned. So it's not just one yearly event, but a series of roadshow events running up to our main Malta conference. This year was our 4th time happening, but it was the most successful ones in terms of the number of deals done. I'm still receiving emails from startups who are telling me that they've been invested in by investors that they met at the conference. And I'm not saying this purely to promote what we're doing, but rather, this is what we take pride in as a MedTech World, and that's where we'd like to continue taking the brand, not just revolving around the conference brand, but around an emerging ecosystem which is not charging exorbitant fees for startups to pitch at our events. We're not charging exorbitant fees for people to attend our events. We're trying to help as many as we can, because we genuinely believe that every startup deserves to be funded so that they would at least have enough runway to be able to test their solutions, solve the problems that they want to solve, and so on.
Nice, and that's really good, because I was looking at what's on the sort of schedule for next year now, and next year it seems there's going to be about 3,000 attendees there. There's also platforms, as you said, for startups to go, and there's even competitions for startup companies. What does this competition sort of entail? Because I've got a few mates of mine who are working on a few startups in MedTech, and if they're listening right now and they're wondering, okay, there's a startup competition, what are the prizes to be won for upcoming companies?
We're trying not just to focus on people speaking on stage. So when it comes to when it comes to content of people speaking in panels, keynotes, you can find plenty on YouTube or wherever. So we're trying to nurture a good 3-day environment technicals, even though the conference is on 2 days. On day 0, we have a CEO only forum. Next year, we're coming up with an investors only thing, a culture tour. So it's like a 3-day whole thing. And we're trying to nurture a good experience for anyone joining. So be it through the startup pitching competition, as you were mentioning. And this year, we managed to have a good lineup of 10 startups, some of which had already done their human trials. So it's not like any prototype, never being tested or whatever, but startups that have already been invested in and are looking to continue being invested in. pitching on stage in front of a panel of judges made up of a well-known seasoned investors from Europe and North America. And the thing is that everyone could apply to possibly pitch. Obviously, we couldn't have everyone pitching, but we're trying to come up with a very cool and innovative startup village on our exhibition floor. Because our conference, when it comes to the whole conference, it's over 2 days, multiple stages running in parallel, as well as an exhibition floor. And last year we had around, I think, 55 or 60 different stands and exhibitors. But when it comes to the startups, anyone applying and getting a startup pass, apart from the fact that they're getting a chance to speak on stage or possibly pitch, we're also giving them a startup kiosk on the startup village, so that any investor, be it during the breaks or whenever, could tour the exhibition floor and get to look at the startups, speak to them, and take it on from there.
Nice. Now that sounds really good. And for people listening right now, I'll be putting the links below to all the, to everything that we will be discussing on this episode, so that you can also see it's easy for you to access and find the information, and you can see if it's something that you'd want to do. But I mean,
if I may, actually, sorry, Rodney. Last year we gave over 100,000. The total prize pot was over 100,000 euros, be it through free opportunities to participate at any of our conferences next year. We had a recruitment package being offered by Lifeblood Capital and Talent from the US, so they're willing to help the startup get a candidate for whatever position they're looking at. So, and for next year, we're obviously looking to build even more, a bigger pot for of prizes.
Nice. And since you said 100,000 euros, that's the biggest word I think most people will hear. The startups, because I was speaking to my friend actually earlier this year. I did an episode with him, and he said for their startup they'd raised at least maybe a tenth of that, and that was good enough for them. So for startups, I think every amount makes a difference, and I think and also it's not just the startups here. I think it's also quite important for us also even look at the networking you get there, because you got all these big guys there, you got mentors there, and when you on your business journey, sometimes people tend to say that it's who you know, sometimes not what you know as a person. So meaning that your own individual knowledge is limited. So if you network with other people, if you speak to some people who are going to be at the conference, you might end up even getting a mentor. Because you mentioned a mentor as well, that also will help you with your business. You might get some advice that might make a difference for you. So I think it's a really great opportunity. And the one for next year, it's going to be between the 6th and 8th of November in Malta.
Yep.
So for everyone out there, like I'd say, just book those dates in your calendar, and it's going to be really fascinating. And I definitely will be there. I'll try my best to be there. And I think it's going to be exciting to see all the people there. And it's also like at the right time of the year. It's in November. Most of Europe will be colder, so it's a good time to go down to Malta for that as well, just to give yourself a breather and meet more people and get that connections to get going. And it's impressive, really, what has happened in 3 years, like how you've grown the company in 3 years, which makes me quite curious as to, like, what are your thoughts now, like sort of like leading on to the future? I know you already mentioned that you want to be more than just a conference company, but you're starting to look at other possibilities in the future, just in MedTech alone, or you're planning to expand to pharmaceuticals, or what are your thoughts, or what are your plans, at least, that you can say freely for us? Right.
I mean, I don't think there's any secrets of it, to be honest. Obviously, we're looking to consolidate the conference brand, not just in Europe, but possibly in the US, and consolidate our works and relationships in the Middle East as well, because it's essentially a market that we've been working in for the past 2 years. Speaking of pharma and other industries, I don't think we really need to shy away from MedTech too much when it comes to the past couple of months and what we can possibly look at in the next couple of months. There's been a lot of cross-pollination and collaboration between different niches within the whole healthcare. So medtech and medical devices is one niche, pharma is another, digital health is another. But we've been seeing so many collaborations between all of these different factions within healthcare. So I'd love to possibly, especially for next year, include a little more and greater representation from these sectors, be it pharma or whatever it is. Going back to your point to how we've managed to grow so quickly in the past years, I remember when I stopped surgery, people were thinking I was going to kind of retire early. I was trying to find an easier lifestyle because in surgery at one point we were working 60 to 80 hours a week, sometimes 36 hours straight at one go. But I don't think I've actually had any retirements because I'm working the same, if not more. There's no fixed hours. So when it comes to me opening a laptop, looking at emails, LinkedIn, whatever, I do it all the time, be it 10 past midnight or whatever. And case in point, today it's a public holiday here locally. So if I was still working in surgery and I was off and I didn't have a duty, I could have been enjoying the weather outside or whatever. But I'm here. I love doing the podcast, but even beyond the podcast, I had a full day scheduled with calls, emails, and so on. So it's like a normal working day for me. But that's the story of entrepreneurship, I guess.
Yes, there's no rest, and it's quite motivational actually to hear that as well. And besides the conference as well, like one thing I also wanted to mention was that like yes, I've seen like some of the stuff you guys are working on. I've even seen some of your like your podcast as well. You got a news outlet as well. So there's a lot of services and things on offer that you're working on, and growing the team, and sort of like bringing different expertise, networking with people, traveling, working on public holidays, like you have said today, is probably a lot more hours than you would do in any normal office environment, or like in a surgeon, because you can always book some days off, and
Agreed.
and then you can always come back. So, and just one other thing as well that I wanted to just hear from you as well was like uh, how, like, what would you tell people out there who are thinking of, okay, they're probably stuck in their career, whether it's research, they've done their PhDs, or they're so focused now in their careers, but they still feel this desire to explore other avenues, and they're currently going through that pressure where people might be thinking a lot of things like, okay, you're starting this, you spent 5 years of your life doing this. Now you want to try something else that's different. Like, how do you cope with that pressure? Because I'm sure this pressure comes from people who you're close to, your friends, family. And how does one deal with that to still try to chase your desires and goals?
I mean, life starts outside your comfort zone, I guess. So before I took the plunge to stop surgery, it wasn't just an idea I had over a day. I mean, it was like years of me speaking to my parents, my partner, whoever, friends. And it got to a point where I couldn't take it anymore. I just wanted to take the plunge. I've always been a risk taker, but I've taken calculated risks. So to anyone listening who's possibly thinking of doing the same or something similar, it's useless living a life you're not comfortable living when you can get to choose what you want. I mean, I wake up every day motivated to work. At one point, even though I was loving surgery, saving patients, and so on, there wasn't any thrill anymore. I thought I could do something, I wouldn't say better, something different, something on a more global scale. And again, life starts outside of your comfort zone. And if there's another quote that I live by, is that your biggest yes is 100 no's away. So in the past like 3 years, I've had so many no's and rejections from companies, speakers, anyone looking to participate at my conference, that at one point it gets to a point I can't continue to do this. Like, I can't take another no, I can't take another rejection. Then funny enough, we're speaking about TikTok and social media platforms. I mean, I do waste a couple of times, like on TikTok, going through motivation videos or whatever there is. And then I had actually seen this video or short reel, whatever. It's like, your biggest yes is 100 or 1,000, whatever, knows away. And that really stuck with me. And I'm here, I guess. Now we'll see where we're going.
Yes, and that's really good. I actually took note of that because one of the things that I do on this podcast, whenever I speak to someone and they say something that I think is very valuable, most of the things are valuable, but I also make my own notes. So I've got like a diary now with all the guests I've brought here and everything they've said. I always take notes. Hopefully at some points I'll keep applying all these things. And it just when you're talking, it reminded me of what Elon Musk was saying. There's one interview where you say that if you need like a cheerleader or someone need to cheer you on to go and chase your dreams and be a venture going into capitalism in the sense of starting a business, you probably shouldn't start a business, like, because you have to, it has to come from deep within you. And that's what you said, like, you wake up in the morning, this is what you want to do, this is where your meaning is, and yeah, and that gives you value. And I think it's really fascinating what you've done. I'm really happy, and I'm also happy to be associated like with you guys, because like you started this in COVID. Most people weren't even thinking about when they'll be able to leave their houses, and like you already had this idea of getting people back together, running conferences and stuff. So you started it in a time where essentially things were dark, most people were losing their jobs, there was nothing much really happening in terms of the world economy, but you still had this desire, which you've done now. And I'm happy that it's growing, and I'm happy to support and do whatever I can from my end as well with my my podcast, my Instagram, my TikTok, my YouTube channel. It's weird, I've actually gotten really good at all of that, even though I never studied any of this at university, because I did engineering as well. So it's like a similar switch for me, and I really enjoy this. It's like media and stuff, but it's nothing to do with what I actually started. And but I also get that luckily I have that background knowledge, because I also did biomedical engineering, so that helps me when I speak to different companies and I showcase their products and stuff. And because of that, and because of you as well, I also said here on the podcast, just to thank you as well, because like since I started working with you guys, I've also had other CEOs that have come and given me new ideas for my own channel. So
Nice.
for people listening, next year on this podcast, it's gonna move from just being a podcast, but I'm also gonna start reviewing medical products, like on
Nice.
the YouTube channel. So which is something which I would have never really would have done, but I know that but with my technical knowledge, I'm capable of doing that. So it's one of the things that I'm also going to start doing, looking forward, maybe in April, March next year. We will also be reviewing some products here and keeping it growing. And so yeah, thank you very much, Dylan. I'm really honored to have you on the podcast today, and I'm sure people learned a bit about the conference. And as I said, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be recording a lot of stuff at the conference. I'm going to be sharing a lot of the stuff on the internet leading up to that.
We'll get you a podcast booth at the booth, so you can just grab the guests and interview them.
Exactly, like on the spot, like 5-minute interviews, just a few questions. Yeah, I mean, I already have an extra microphone. I already got 2 microphones, so when I have to do anything in person, I'm prepared. Yeah, that should be interesting, and even the roadshows as well. If I get the chance to attend any of those, I'll also be putting that on the Instagram to build up, to show what people what we're doing there and stuff. So yeah, so now thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure, very casual and passionate and honest conversation, to be honest. This is what I love. So it's not like any recorded or, like pre-scripted conversation, very candid. Good luck with what you're doing. I'm looking forward to hear this podcast again and any of your future ones.
Yeah, cheers. Thank you very much. I'm happy to hear that. I always try to make this podcast different from what people would normally hear on BBC or something, because this is not a BBC interview. This is just like a normal conversation that we have, and the audience basically has the privilege of listening on us. So yeah, thank you very much.
Bye. Take care.
Take care.